What's that?
And that was without even a single drop of rum.
This, my friend, is a pint. Why don't you just pull up a stool and have a drink with it? It comes in pints. I can get you one. You've had a whole half already.
Good night and party on!
Party on, Wayne!
Party on, Garth.
All right, what is up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of After Work Beers. I am your host, John, the creative blue-collar guy, and if you'll excuse me just a moment while I open my After Work beer. Cheers to you guys. I hope your week is going better than mine so far. Yeah, work sucks, but we got beer, and we got some fun stuff to talk about, so yeah. Oh, it's just so good when it hits the lips. Yeah, what's up, Roman? We've got my alternate universe Bizarro dad here in the chat, and it's actually kind of funny. I was anticipating you being in the chat because I was going to bring up that exact story. So for those of you who don't know, for those of us here in YouTube world, Roman and I actually do live within fairly close proximity to each other. So he actually has to put up with seeing me in person every once in a while rather than through a camera where he can mute me or just shut his laptop. This past Friday, he and I, along with another good friend of his, were hanging out at a local brewery just down the street from my work. I had just gotten off work, and the other two individuals in question are retired. Screw you guys. And I was like, yeah, it's like, let's meet at the brewery after work, you know, hang out, we'll have a couple beers, and we're sitting outside, and we have our regular pints, and somebody walks by with like a 1 liter size, like an Oktoberfest, like German, like Stein from the brewery, because I think they did like their own kind of Oktoberfest thing. So we're sitting there with our little, 16-ounce pint glasses, and somebody walks by with the Stein, and this was literally Roman in that.
What's that? This, my friend, is a pint. It comes in pints. I can get you one. You've had a whole half already.
Stupid fat hobbit. But yeah, that was like, we couldn't have planned it. We couldn't have scripted it. He literally, like, they walked by, and he literally, like, they heard him too. They turned around, and he's like, "What's that?" It's like, oh my God, come on, Roman. Oh boy. So, but yeah, thanks guys for being here and hanging out. How's everybody's week going so far? He said it's been a week so far at work. When my alarm went off this morning, well, I had already been awake for quite a while because, well, I don't really sleep all that great. So I'm usually tossing and turning for a couple hours before my alarm goes off. But my alarm finally goes off. And in my brain, I went, well, hey, at least it's Friday. It's not Friday. It's Wednesday, which it's still fun because I get to be here and I get to have my beer and I get to bullshit with any of you that decide to join me in the chat here. But yeah, nothing ruins your Friday more like realizing it's Wednesday. So yeah, but thought we would talk a little bit about the age-old rumor that has been around probably for about as long as the internet has been around, which, as you know, was invented by Al Gore. That people seem to believe the Pink Floyd album, the iconic Pink Floyd album, The Dark Side of the Moon, syncs up with The Wizard of Oz. So we're we're gonna go ahead and start with this, a little bit of background, just to kill some time. You'll have to forgive me. Normally, I'm pretty good at like pulling up articles and different stuff like this, and I feel like using Wikipedia is almost kind of like cheating. But I'm gonna read from the Wikipedia page about this for just a little bit because there actually are some interesting facts, rumors, whatever. There's some interesting bits in here about how this all came to be. So some refer to it as the dark side of the rainbow, also known as the Dark Side of Oz or the Wizard of Floyd. That last one sounds kind of lame. I like the first two. I think Dark Side of the Rainbow works. Dark Side of Oz, okay. The Wizard of Floyd, not so much. But it is the pairing of the 1973 Pink Floyd album, The Dark Side of the Moon, with the 1939 film, The Wizard of Oz. This produces numerous moments of apparent synchronicity where the film and the album appear to correspond. Members of Pink Floyd and the Dark Side of the Moon engineer Alan Parsons denied any intent to connect the album to the film. So let's go ahead and get into a little bit of the history of it here, which again, it's Wikipedia, so maybe it's true, maybe it's not. I always like sometimes watching those videos where people are interviewing, like musicians and other people, and they're like, oh, we're going to read stuff off your Wikipedia page and we're going to play the, is that true or is that a lie? And sometimes it's kind of 50-50. One of the really interesting ones was Rob Zombie, because it's some of the stuff about Rob Zombie that you think would not be true that's on his Wikipedia was actually true, and then some of the other stuff that's like more tame, he's like, nah, that's fake, that's a lie. So the history. In August of 1995, the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette published an article with Charles Savage suggesting that readers watch the 1939 film The Wizard of Oz while listening to the 1973 Pink Floyd album The Dark Side of the Moon. Savage said the idea was first shared on an online Pink Floyd news group. Online in 1995. Man, that had to be in like an AOL chat room or something. According to Savage, if you start the album as the MGM lion roars on screen, the result is astonishing. It's as if the movie were one long art film music video for the album. Song lyrics and titles match the action and plot. The music swells and falls with characters' movements. Expect to see enough firm coincidences to make you wonder whether the whole thing was planned. Hello, Blair. Good evening to you, sir. How's your week going so far? Hope your week's going better than mine. But like I already said, work sucks, but we have beer. Yeah, like probably a lot of drugs that led to this, but it's still kind of interesting because I will admit I have done this before. I have synced up where I pop in the Wizard of Oz DVD, and then I throw Dark Side of the Moon CD in and start them at a certain time. And I'll admit there are moments where you're kind of like, okay, like that matches up. That yeah, like it's a lot of coincidences, and I think it's probably one of those things where you could probably do this with almost any album because it's like once you're looking for it, you're gonna see. I don't know if either one of you guys, if you've seen the movie The Number 23 with Jim Carrey. I think it came out in like 2007. It's sort of like a mystery thriller. Anyways, the long and short of the plot is, he becomes obsessed with, like the superstitions around the number 23, but it becomes this thing. It's like once he's aware of it and once he's looking for it, he starts seeing it everywhere. And really good movie, kind of an interesting twist at the end, but still it's that idea that when you're looking for something, it's the same kind of thing. Like, when you start kind of shopping for a new car, or even once you buy a new car, the model that you're looking into or the model car that you buy, once you have it, you start seeing that car everywhere. And it doesn't mean there's suddenly more of them on the road. It just means all of a sudden, like it's more in your subconscious. You notice them more. Yeah, Number 23, great movie. Definitely recommend. So in his 1995 article, Savage favored starting at the lion's first roar, but acknowledged in 2023 that the third roar had by then become the usual start point. I remember the first time I heard about this, I remember them saying it was on the lion's third roar. So the MGM logo comes up, the lion roars on the third roar, you start the album. I'm going to play in a minute here. Once I get through this, I'm going to play a little bit of a clip of David Gilmour on the whatever show, Late Show, Tonight Show, one of the Jimmys, one of the whatever, the Tonight Show. The Jimmy that didn't get choked up and cry about the result of the election, where David Gilmour kind of talks about this. I'm sure he's probably been asked 1,000 times, but he took it in stride and he was a good sport about it. But he doesn't really do late night talk show performances or interviews or whatever stuff. So this is kind of a rare thing for him. And I was fortunate enough to see him live and in concert a couple weeks ago. Might be the only time I'll get to see him. So I got to check that one off my bucket list and finally saw a member of Pink Floyd live, the one that doesn't spend his entire concert lecturing people about current events and political things. Yeah, he probably only spoke maybe 2 or 3 times to say, thanks for being here, introduce the band, and then, okay, thank you again, good night. Like, he's a man of few words. He gets up and he just wants to play songs, and I appreciate that. So commonly noted instances of synchronicity between The Dark Side of the Moon and Wizard of Oz include Claire Torrey's howls on the Great Gig in the Sky during the film's tornado scene and the album's final fading heartbeat while Dorothy listens to the Tin Man's non-existent heart. And I was trying to kind of Google and find information about this too, because I think, again, with probably the aid of a lot of drugs, people started doing this before CDs were the common media. But when I'd done it before, there was one time where I did it, and obviously the album is only 45, 50 minutes long, whatever you could fit on a vinyl record. I think the max was around 45 minutes or so, maybe a little bit more. Obviously the movie is longer than that. So once the album is over, then what happens? So when I did it with The Wizard of Oz on DVD and The Dark Side of the Moon on CD, first time I did it, the album ended, and I'm kind of like, okay, now what? So then years later, I tried it again. I was like, what if I put it on repeat? So I put the CD on repeat. So as soon as the album ends, it just restarts. And I will admit, completely clear-eyed and sober, even as the album repeats, I feel like there are some coincidental things that line up, but who knows? Who knows? Is there a clip of him talking about listening to The Wall while high and staring at the dogs playing poker painting? No, I don't believe so. It is funny, though, in the same interview with Jimmy Fallon, because Jimmy Fallon was basically asking David Gilmour questions. It was almost kind of like the same thing of like Wikipedia true or false stuff. And he asked him once, he's like, is it true that the song Wish You Were Here got you to quit smoking? And he goes on to say there's been this urban legend that when you listen to the song Wish You Were Here, there's a moment in the song where you hear somebody coughing in the background, and the urban legend or the rumor was always that was David Gilmour coughing in the background, and that led him to give up smoking because he, whatever. And he comes back and he tells this long-winded story about when he was a kid, and he was below the legal driving age, and his dad made a deal with him. His dad told him, I think he said the legal driving age in the UK at that time was 17. His dad told him, he said, okay, if you make it to 17 and you're not a smoker, without smoking, you don't smoke, he's like, I will teach you to drive, we'll get you your license or whatever. And he turned 17 and he's like, hey, I don't smoke. I never smoked. What's the deal, Dad? And he was like, oh, well, I don't know what you're talking about. Like typical parent thing. I'm sure a lot of you have done it. So then I see he went on to say that he did the same deal with his own kids, and they did it, and he did the thing and the whatever. And they came back. One of his kids came back, and they found this old photo of David Gilmour with Paul McCartney. And he's talking about how he's holding this big joint. And they're like, what's the deal with this? And he's just kind of like, oh, well, and stuff. And it's like, okay. But really, if you're hanging out with one of the members of the Beatles and they hand you a joint, there's that. I'm not a smoker myself, to each their own, whatever. But it's just like, man, if you're hanging out with Paul McCartney and that dude hands you a joint, oh, dude, you toke. Oh, you hit that thing. Like, come on. Like, it's like Paul McCartney, Willie Nelson, any kind of like iconic massive like stoner musician like that, it's just like you take a hit, like so that was kind of another funny story from that whole thing. But let's get back to our Wikipedia article here. Fans created websites about the experience and cataloged moments of synchronicity. In April of 97, the DJ George Taylor Morris discussed Dark Side of the Rainbow on Boston radio. In July of 2000, Turner Classic Movies aired The Wizard of Oz with the option of synchronizing the broadcast to the album using SAP audio channel. Numerous venues have staged Dark Side of the Rainbow shows where the film is projected while either a recording of the album is played or else a jam band or Pink Floyd tribute act covers it live. That sounds terrible. No offense to the other like cover bands and tribute bands out there, because that's my side hustle. That's what I do on the weekends. But I don't know if I would want to go see a Pink Floyd cover band. They're one of those bands that it's just like I'd rather just hear the original. Well, now that you're here, make sure to downvote and unsubscribe. Hey. So the response, members of Pink Floyd have denied any connection between the album and the film. Guitarist David Gilmour dismissed it as a product of some guy with too much time on his hands and probably too many drugs on his hand. Bassist Roger Waters said it was BS and that it had nothing to do with anyone who worked on the album. Drummer Nick Mason said it was absolute nonsense. It has nothing to do with The Wizard of Oz. It was all based on The Sound of Music. There you go. Well, let's sync up The Sound of Music to the Dark Side of the Moon. Dark Side of the Moon studio engineer Alan Parsons also denied any connection, saying the band had no means of playing videotapes in the studio at the time of recording. So, yes, this was in the 70s where, home media didn't really exist yet. You didn't have VHS. You couldn't go buy your favorite movies and watch them at home yet. So they had no way of watching movies in the studio at the time of recording. He said he was disappointed by the results when he tried watching the film while listening to the album, and that if you play any record with the sound turned down on the TV, you will find things that work. So again, that kind of goes back to my theory that when you're looking for it, you will find it. Detractors argue that the phenomenon is the result of the mind's tendency to find patterns by discarding data that does not fit. Film critic Richard Roper published his assessment of the phenomenon, which he referred to as the Dark Side of Oz. Roper concluded that while Pink Floyd may have had the resources and technical abilities to produce an alternative film soundtrack, undergoing such an endeavor would have been impractical. Roper also noted that The Dark Side of the Moon is approximately an hour shorter than The Wizard of Oz, to which I already said when I've lined the two up before, I would put the album on repeat, and there are some definite coincidental moments, even as the album loops and repeats, which again is so improbable, so impractical, especially back with when you had to try to do it with the record. Like even when the album is halfway over, how fast can you flip it and drop that needle to make sure it's still synced up? It's like you really wouldn't have been able to do this until CD. Yeah, because with a cassette, same thing. You'd have to flip the cassette tape over. So there's no way in 1973 that they had the foresight to think, oh, someday you'll be able to just loop the album, and then how do you make all that work? But during a rare late night talk show appearance, Jimmy Fallon questioned David Gilmour on said phenomenon. And this is what he had to say. Make sure to share the audio so I don't look like a goof. All right.
Good for you. How about this? The Pink Floyd album Dark Side of the Moon was written to synchronize with the movie Wizard of Oz.
Well, of course it was.
Okay.
So there it is. David Gilmour, straight from the horse's mouth. Of course it was. I'm pretty sure he's joking, but it's still pretty funny.
There you go. You actually... No.
It's, we listened to it, Polly and I, years ago.
But there's no planning that out. There's no way.
No.
No.
I don't know. I mean, I only heard about it years later.
Have you ever tried
Someone
it?
said you put the needle on. This is vinyl, you know.
Yes.
And on the third, and you know, you've got the film running somehow, and on the third roar of the MGM line,
Yes.
you put the needle on for the beginning of Dark Side, and there's these strange synchronicities that happen. That
Have you ever tried it?
yeah. Well, now people have done the donkey work, the chore work, and added
It's
it
on the internet.
Okay, that like done the donkey work. Like I love sometimes like just listening to people from other countries talk and like sort of what their slang or turn of phrase or different things that they say. So he says that someone out there did the donkey work. I had to text a friend of mine about this the other day because an old coworker of mine many years ago, he still works at the company that I quit. He probably shouldn't because they don't take care of their employees, and that's why I left. Neither here nor there. I digress. There's another employee at said company who has worked there for a very, very long time. He's just kind of one of these, I don't know, maybe in his 50s now, and he's just one of those guys that he's just always super high. If you get a little bit too close to him, even really not that close, you can just like smell it coming off of him. And everybody that works there knows, the managers, the bosses, everybody, they don't care. He sits there and he sets up banjos all day long, and he does his job, and apparently he does it well. So they leave him be. But he's American. I mean, he's from here, but his thing of like when he thinks something is good or cool or he likes it, whatever, it's worthy. He's like, oh, worthy, bro, worthy. But then if something's bad or if he doesn't like something, it's donkey. And he's like, no, man, no, that's donkey, bro. So I think it's funny that here 78-year-old David Gilmour is talking about how, you know, okay, they synced the movie up together and somebody did the donkey work, the hard work, and like they put it on YouTube. So I don't know, random funny side story. Maybe it's only funny to me. I don't know.
And on YouTube, you can watch bits.
It's kind of amazing.
And there are these strange coincidences. I'll call them coincidences.
So maybe if you play this while you watch the movie Wicked.
Yeah. Who knows?
Who knows? You never know. Tonight you're performing a song, Dark and Velvet Nights.
Actually,
from the new album.
Here, if I can find that other
it was written to synchronize with the movie Wiz.
My wages as a van driver were $7. What is that?
Yeah. So cut to the internet.
Yeah, so cut to the internet. So
He didn't remember the deal.
I'll teach you to drive.
Okay,
Quick
it's leather.
Or not?
We'll give it a whirl. Yeah.
The song "Wish You Were Here" helped you quit smoking after you heard yourself coughing in the background of the song. I think like 26 seconds into it, you hear coughing, and that's you, and you quit smoking.
Well, when I was, let me digress a tiny bit.
Yeah.
When I was about 14, my dad said to me, son, if you get to 17, which is the legal age for driving in the UK, he said, and you're not smoking, I'll teach you to drive the car and you can use it sometimes. I said, deal.
Yeah.
So 3 years went by. I got to 17. I went to my dad. I said, Dad, I'm 17. I still don't smoke. He said, yeah. And I said, car lessons, driving.
You remember?
And he said, no. What are you talking about? No way.
He didn't remember the deal?
Didn't remember the way. And you might think that would send me immediately off to buy a packing.
Yeah.
But it didn't. I never smoked.
You never smoked?
No. I mean, no, I've said before.
Not cigarettes.
I've never really smoked. Mind you, when the internet comes along, you find that, because I told all my kids that's what had happened, and I'd cut them the same deal.
Yeah.
And I would honor it.
Yeah. So cut to the internet.
Yeah, so cut to the internet, sorry. And one of my kids came up to me years later and had a picture of me. I think it was at a Nebworth concert, standing with Paul McCartney, and I had a great big joint in my hand.
Tell him.
He said, Dad, you say you didn't smoke. What is that?
Yeah. And you go,
went, well,
just take the car. Just take the car. Yeah, just take the car and go. Just don't tell anyone. Yeah. Okay, how about this? Before you were a famous musician, you were a model.
Well, that was my life's course, but I failed. I had to go for second best and be a musician.
Yeah. Yeah, you went for second, but you were. Did you model?
Yeah, I mean,
You did.
people would offer you money. I was working as a van driver
Yeah.
at that moment in time, and my wages as a van driver were £7 a week.
Yeah.
No, you weren't. I'm lying. That was what I got when I first joined Pink Floyd. No, it's £15 a week. True story.
He actually got money when he first joined the band, man.
But you know,
don't make any money in the beginning.
£15 a week for driving a van 8 hours a day.
Yeah.
And one day of modelling, and you get £50. So it's like,
Hello. Do the math.
I mean, come on.
Let's go. I don't want to drive this van.
I mean, these jobs didn't come flying along all the time.
You had this stud driving a van around England, and you go, "Hey, come on!" That's what I'm talking about. Come on, you got to take the money.
Well,
This is the money. This is.
It was a way of building up my resources to buy a new guitar or something that I actually needed.
Good for you. How about this?
Okay, and then that's where it lines back up to and asking about the dark side of the moon. So yeah, kind of some funny stuff. I guess a very a rare appearance of David Gilmour. Not necessarily even just doing an interview, like he does some interviews here and there and stuff, but then he performed a song off of his new album on the late night show. Which I guess he doesn't really tend to do very much. I guess once you're at the level of that, like David Gilmour, I was in Pink Floyd. Like, you don't really need to get out there and promote your album. You don't need to get out there and promote your tour. I mean, the show that I saw was sold out a couple days after the night that I saw him. I think he did 3 sold out nights at the Hollywood Bowl, and then 3 or 4 sold out nights at Madison Square Garden, and then boom, that's all she wrote for his U.S. tour. So maybe a dozen tour dates in 2-3 different major cities, and that was it for the United States. So yeah, had to drive to LA, which happened to turn out being the first game of the World Series. Go sport ball, that I don't follow. I don't care. But the concert was in LA. It was the first night of Major League Baseball's World Series in which the Los Angeles Dodgers were playing, which no one could have known that when I bought the tickets because the baseball playoffs had not even happened yet. So nobody knew who was going to be in the World Series. Nobody knew that the Dodgers were going to be there. No one knew it was going to be in LA. But then I guess there was also a Lakers game. For those of you who also don't follow the sport ball, that's the basketball team in Los Angeles. And then one other event that I forget what. It was David Gilmour, night 1 of the World Series featuring the Los Angeles Dodgers, game of the Los Angeles Lakers, something else. I spent so much time in traffic that weekend that I never want to drive a car ever again. But I survived. I made it there and back. It was amazing. I'm so glad I went. I hope I never have to go to Los Angeles ever again. That's all I have to say about that. It's just I really try to avoid LA at all costs. But the good news is that San Diego is basically becoming Los Angeles.
And that's all I have to say about that.
So let's move along. We're only about 30 minutes in, so I might actually run out of stuff to talk about. We might either end this with less than an hour, or I don't know. We can just sit here and bullshit, and you guys can throw topics at me, and I'll look them up, and we'll just hang out. But so far, we've got 7 votes on the poll, all 100% saying that yes, the Dark Side of the Moon absolutely syncs up with the Wizard of Oz. So thank you all for voting on the poll. Make sure to vote if you have not already. Also, if you are watching, make sure to hit that like button, unless you are Lady Marine, in which you will downvote. But yeah, if you guys are here watching, make sure to hit that like button. It does help the channel. So, a couple weeks ago, we had an onstage brawl between members of Jane's Addiction, which made their reunion tour come to a very abrupt halt and quite possibly the ending of the band. But, hey, I gotta tell people what to do while they're here. Vote on the poll, like the stream, subscribe, ring the bell, share it out there. You know the drill. You know all the stuff. Okay. But if I tell you to downvote, does that mean that you're actually not going to downvote because I'm telling you to and you need to be defiant? So if you're familiar with the band CKY, maybe you are, maybe you are not. It features, I think he's still in it, the brother of Bam Margera, who rose to fame with Jackass. But I actually think Jackass kind of started doing what they were doing by doing their like CKY's home videos, where it was like a little bit of the band, a little bit of Bam and his friends doing stupid stunts, lighting each other on fire or whatever, gave birth to Jackass. Johnny Knoxville came in, blah, blah, blah. So two bands that I'm sure most people did not realize are still together, CKY and Alien Ant Farm, the guys that did that one Michael Jackson song and then kind of, did whatever they did after that. Well, apparently they were on tour together. CKY's Chad Ginsburg won't apologize for punching Alien Ant Farm's Dryden Mitchell and getting kicked off the tour. Let's unpack this. What is up, Cajun Corey? How are you doing tonight, brother? J-Dog Freddy's. I think this is the first time I've seen you here. So good evening or afternoon, or I don't know where you're tuning in from, but thank you for being here. Echoes 2001 is a much better sync than Oz. Oh, interesting. I actually just recently saw so Willie Nelson's son, Lucas Nelson, he has his own band, Lucas Nelson and the Promise of the Real. I saw them live and in concert here recently, and they ended their show by doing a cover of Echoes. I think they shaved a couple minutes off, but it was still about 17 minutes long. And I mean, man, they did it. They went for it, and it was awesome. Yeah, apparently. I actually, okay, I will admit, I did see them live a few years ago. They were touring with POD, Hometown Homies. I don't know why I just did that. But the band POD, which resides from San Diego, specifically Chula Vista, California. I'm always going to have love for those guys. They're super rad guys, and they're still out there doing their thing. And a couple of years ago, POD was touring with Alien Ant Farm. They played here in town at House of Blues, and I was at the show. And of course, they waited until the very end of their set to play Smooth Criminal, because that was the one song everybody was waiting to hear. But yeah, apparently they're still out there. But let's figure out why Chad, such a Chad thing to do, Chad, to punch Dryden in the face, getting CKY kicked off of the tour. That definitely looks like somebody that would punch someone in the face for no reason. Yeah. Update. CKY vocalist Chad Ginsburg has responded to punching Alien Ant Farm vocalist Dryden Mitchell and their subsequent ejection from the tour, saying he had good reason and that all CKY fans should get their money back on the tickets they bought. Surely this isn't about to devolve into a week-long story arc, right? Let's continue. UK CKY fans, wrote Ginsburg on his own social media, "Get your money back!" Exclamation point, exclamation point. I had no choice and good reason for what happened. I will always defend myself. You know me much better than that. Do your fans really know you, though? Do they know you? I don't know where I stand on this one yet, but it's still just, when you hear about bands getting into fights and brawling and stuff, it's like, all right, let's unpack this for a minute. Let's talk. Original story: CKY has been booted from their UK tour with Alien Ant Farm after CKY vocalist Chad Ginsburg punched Alien Ant Farm vocalist Dryden Mitchell. According to a statement from Mitchell and Alien Ant Farm, Ginsburg was allegedly causing issues with other bands and crew members throughout the tour. Mitchell reportedly addressed these issues to Ginsburg, who flipped a table through his phone. Mitchell then reportedly addressed the issues to CKY's manager, at which Ginsburg punched Mitchell, saying, quote, sadly, Chad from CKY hasn't figured out how to cohabitate with others after all these years. They will no longer be on the Alien Ant Farm tour through the rest of the UK shows after Chad punched me in the face. Just right in the face. I've watched him treat multiple crew members and opening band members like trash through the Europe shows and cause general drama around our camp. Before the last Europe shows, I went to Chad and asked if he had any issues with anyone specifically and if he wanted to have a meeting with the whole crew and bands to discuss what's going on. He upended the table in the dressing room and threw his phone and then canceled their show. Today, we still had business things to square away, and I told his manager what a problem Chad was being, verbally, as well as messing up the bus with all of his messes every day for other people to clean up. Well, he punched me in the face and pretty much ran away like I imagine he'll do for all of his future problems. Interesting stuff here. So Dryden Mitchell from Alien Ant Farm continues on. I'm grateful for my sobriety and grateful that I didn't retaliate physically in any way whatsoever. I would love these shows to continue and apologize to all the CKY fans for Chad's behavior. We have zero hard feelings for Jess and Elvis in CKY and are gutted to see them go, but I will never knowingly put myself in volatile situations. So this had to end. After suffering a C1 and C2 fusion spinal fracture from a bus crash years ago, I hope that everything is okay in that area. Shows will continue without CKY, and we hope everyone still wants to come and enjoy positive evenings with us, including CKY fans. If you don't, we understand, and refunds will be issued accordingly. Stay safe, everybody. And Chad, go to the gym. After that, find a therapist. And maybe in 25 years, we can shake hands. Until then, though, get help. Love Dryden. So, obviously, without knowing much else of what happened here, let's see if I can get the Instagram post to load. So, the guy from CKY, when he posted his statement, he added in, there were hashtags that were two sides to every story, something. It's not in this article. It was in a different one, I think. I'm sure more details will surface eventually. We don't really know what happened, but I would go so far as to say, if I were a betting man, which I'm not because I'm not usually very lucky and I lose my money, so I just don't. The fact that Alien Ant Farm is being gracious enough to say that, hey, our tour is going to continue. We're going to find another band to fill the spot. But if you bought tickets to see CKY, we will still refund your money. That to me looks like a really good sign of faith on their end, that it's they're not holding any ill will. They're not holding any hard feelings where it's just okay, this guy got violent. We kicked the band off of the tour. If you still want to come to the show, awesome. We want you here. We welcome you. But if not, we understand. We'll issue refunds. Usually refunds only happen if the show is legit canceled. Nobody's playing. No one. You're not getting any kind of show. So I would venture to say that that's a pretty good sign of faith. That they are offering refunds to the CKY fans. Let's see. Let's pull this one up because I think I had this article pulled up last week, but I actually ran out of time. But now we have extra time. Yay! Let's talk about Christopher Nolan. Come on, technology. Work with me here. There we go. Sometimes things work. Sometimes. But, if it's a creative blue-collar guy stream, things are bound to go wrong at some point. Whether my laptop doesn't want to cooperate, whether my Wi-Fi is going to cut out, you just never know. So, as many of you probably know, I do love Christopher Nolan movies. I was just on with the great Jacob Ironside last night talking about one of my favorite movies by Christopher Nolan. I mean, one of my favorite movies anyways, but favorite movies by Christopher Nolan, The Prestige. We were talking about that last night. And so now, little by little, we're getting little bits and pieces of information about Christopher Nolan's next project, which is set to be released, I believe, in the summer of 2026. Christopher Nolan has been very what's the word I'm looking for? Vocal. So he's been doing a lot for pushing IMAX technology, because I believe, I could be wrong, maybe this article talks about it, I'm getting ahead of myself, but before Christopher Nolan started using IMAX technology for feature films, they were really only used in documentary style films, the stuff that they show at like the planetariums, where it's like you're in the big dome and like the nature thing is just like projecting all along the big ceiling and stuff. Well, Christopher Nolan saw that and he's like, I want to use that for movies. It started out with some of his movies being just certain sequences were filmed in IMAX, and then it got to where he would film entire movies in IMAX. But it's problematic in a lot of ways because the cameras are very expensive. They're very big and bulky, and apparently they're really noisy. So when you're trying to do scenes with really up close dialogue and stuff, I don't know how they do it, but somehow they do it where they get the camera in super close to the actor and they've got the really intimate dialogue. But yeah, I guess these cameras are supposedly incredibly noisy. Oh, get out of here. Go watch The Prestige, Roman. Watch The Prestige. Why do you hate me? So Christopher Nolan, and also for his last film, Oppenheimer, black and white IMAX film did not exist. He got IMAX and the studio and whoever, he got people to make black and white IMAX film for Oppenheimer. He's a very big proponent of seeing his movies in theaters. He does not believe they are meant to be watched at home on your TV. You need to be in front of the big screen with the IMAX, with the surround sound, with the, I'm disowning you. I'm disowning you, Roman. You're no longer my Bizarro dad. That's fine. I'll never watch Doctor Who or Star Trek or any of that stuff. So I guess it's fair. It's fair. Christopher Nolan will shoot his next movie with, quote, never before used IMAX technology. The director, known for visionary blockbusters such as the Dark Knight trilogy, Inception, Interstellar, Dunkirk, and Oppenheimer, has pioneered IMAX filming technology since early in his career. Earlier this month, it was reported that Nolan's next movie will star Matt Damon and Tom Holland. I'm curious to see if Tom Holland is finally going to use his natural British accent, because all I've really seen him as was Peter Parker and Spider-Man. But when I would see him do interviews for the movies, it would really break my brain because he's British. So I wonder, Nolan himself being British and then bringing on Tom Holland, it's like, are you still going to make him put on an American accent? Is he going to be British? I feel like that would be really hard to watch for 3 hours, but I'm here for it. I want to see it. It'll start filming in early 2025 and be released in IMAX, as have many of his past movies. I've never heard of Prestige, but heard Oppenheimer. Can't watch that movie because my grandpa was one of the scientists on that project. Wow. That's pretty fascinating. But I highly recommend The Prestige. It is an absolutely fantastic movie starring the great Michael Caine, Christian Bale, and Hugh Jackman. So it's a really great movie. But yeah, Roman refuses to watch it because he doesn't like fun. He doesn't like good things. He just likes Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds and Leonard Cohen and She-Hulk and The Acolyte. And, I could go on. So now, during a quarterly earnings call, IMAX CEO Richard Gelfond revealed that Nolan will shoot his new movie with never before used IMAX technology. Gelfond added that their teams have been developing this new technology over the past year. And read his full comments below. I'm pleased to share that Chris will be utilizing new IMAX technology in the making of the film. Never before used equipment that our teams have been developing through this past year. All the government gave them was a thank you letter and a lapel pin, which I have. Yeah, that sounds like the government. Which, I mean, you guys all know, you're all veterans, so you know how the government treats people. A very happy belated Veterans Day to you all. I know I didn't do a stream on Monday, but since I don't know about Cajun, but to Blair, Roman, and Lady Marine, thank you all for your service. I know I'm a couple days late, but like I said, I took Monday off, so you know. Oh, erotic relationship in the movie was off-putting. You don't even know. You haven't even seen it. Get out of here. No, you're fired. Where was I?
Yeah, well, you know, that's just like your opinion, man.
So, what Christopher Nolan using new IMAX technology means for his next movie. It continues a career trend. With Christopher Nolan using new IMAX filming equipment, the director will continue to pioneer the technology as he has consistently done throughout his career. In 2008, The Dark Knight was the first major motion picture to be shot with high-resolution IMAX cameras, technology that was previously reserved for documentaries. Warner Bros. Was hesitant to approve the use of these cameras because they were large, unwieldy, and expensive, to which I do believe Anne Hathaway broke one of them during the scene with the bat bike or bat cycle or whatever the hell they called it. Yeah. Damn you, Anne Hathaway. And though Nolan insisted they were necessary to convey the expanded scope and scale of The Dark Knight. Since 2008, Nolan has continued to pioneer new IMAX technology, including on his most recent film, Oppenheimer, was the first movie ever shot on black and white IMAX film. To accomplish this feat, Kodak and Photoken had to develop the film specially for Oppenheimer. Additionally, Nolan has always been a vocal advocate for the IMAX theater experience, urging audiences to see it in IMAX 70mm, which he considers to be the highest quality imaging format ever devised and the way he intended his films to be seen. Our take on Christopher Nolan using new IMAX technology for his next movie. Prepare for another must-see cinematic event. You can see there, I mean, that camera, like, what's going on there? There's a whole lot. Yeah. That thing's a monster. From The Dark Knight to Oppenheimer, Christopher Nolan has consistently pioneered IMAX technology, creating cinematic masterpieces that demand to be seen on the largest screen possible. With each film, Nolan has shown a commitment to advancing the audience experience, making IMAX not just a premium large format, but a significant draw for viewers. It's only fitting that Christopher Nolan will once again use new technology for his next film, promising yet another unique and must-see cinematic event. I think the article just kind of kept repeating itself over and over and over. Nothing really new coming of it. So, still very little known about it. I think I was talking about, maybe it was last week, maybe it was 2 weeks ago. You're saying it's going to be maybe like a early 1900s period piece, vampire movie, something. I don't know. I feel like that would be really, really out of character for him, given some of the other movies he's done in the past. But it's anybody's guess. He is very, very good at keeping things secret and not letting things leak out. The man doesn't even own a cell phone. So however he manages to keep everyone else on his set and crew and cast and everything to keep their lips sealed, that they don't put anything out there, they don't leak anything out there, I don't know, but he's very, very, very good at it. I feel like in this day and age with the internet and everything else going around, that you can't do anything without, like, as soon as a project is announced, all of a sudden headlines and articles and everything, and maybe they're fake, maybe they're not, maybe people really do have information. Most of the time I think they're fake, but immediately once something is announced, it's, oh, we've got rumors about the new Christopher Nolan movie, we've got leaked spoilers about this, we've got that. Like, everything is like, people can't just sit and wait for official details to be released, for official trailers to be released. Everyone's got to be digging around. So this, like, I'm not necessarily looking for these articles, but because it is something I'm interested in, and because I always click on them when they come up, I do. And it shows me more, like, oh, here's some more information about the Christopher Nolan movie. And again, we're not going to know any info or any details about this movie until that man wants us to know about it. They haven't even started filming yet. So first and foremost, there's that. But yeah, I'm interested to see what his next project will be. I know for a while there was some talk that people were saying he should direct the next James Bond movie, which could be interesting, but I think he's more interested in doing original ideas now. I know one of his earlier movies, the Insomnia, I think, was a remake of some sort. And then the Dark Knight trilogy, while all the script and screenplay and everything was original, obviously the source material was Batman. And I think he's much more interested in doing original ideas rather than remakes. He's not really the comic book guy. And even the Dark Knight trilogy was the only time he ever did sequels. He has not made sequels to any of his other movies, except for the Batman movies. Because even after, I want to say, so Batman Begins was kind of like, okay, dipped his toe in the water. It was a good movie and kind of set up for a next one, but didn't know if he was going to do another one or not. Then The Dark Knight, here comes Heath Ledger. The movie was fantastic. And after that, everyone was clamoring to me, oh, what are you going to do next? What's next for the next Batman movie? Are you going to make a trilogy? Are you going to? And he's just like, I don't know. He's like, I haven't signed on for another Batman movie. I was like, I'm working on Inception right now. I was like, I only work one project at a time. There's no contract. There's no deal. He said, for all I know, that could be it for me in the Batman franchise. For all I know, Warner Brothers could bring in a different director to make another movie and attach it to this trilogy. He was like, I don't know. He doesn't do sequels. He only works one movie at a time. And I think he's like the last great living filmmaker who actually cares about making a good movie without pushing an agenda, without using massive amounts of CGI. And yeah, I always enjoy buying his movies once they come out on a physical format to actually go and watch all the behind the scenes and see how they did a lot of their practical effects, or the little bit of where they did use some CGI and how they did it. But it's all very, very well done, the way that he stitches everything together. Yeah, I'm glad I got to finish the Batman story. I know Dark Knight Rises was kind of the least popular one in the film, and I understand people's criticisms of it. When like people are like, oh, I didn't like it because XYZ, whatever. I'm like, I hear you, I get it, but I went in optimistic and with an open mind, and I enjoyed it. There's a lot of weird plot points in it, but overall, I think it was a good story arc, and yeah, I enjoyed it. But the Dark Knight, even if Heath Ledger hadn't passed away, his performance of the Joker, like that, I mean, that was such a terrific movie. I don't think anyone else can ever really touch the Joker character. Obviously, a few have already. I'm looking at you, Jared Leto. But his Heath Ledger's performance as the Joker was like, yeah, that was just such a great movie, and it's so unfortunate that he died before the movie even came out. I don't even know if he got to see like a final cut of it, and was, given awards and accolades afterwards. I never quite know how to pronounce the word posthumously. I don't know. I'll have another beer and maybe I'll figure out how to pronounce it. But yeah, Batman Begins was kind of like, okay, you're setting up an origin story. It was a little clumsy at first. Dark Knight was amazing. Dark Knight Rises, okay, a little weird. And the interesting thing about that too is that picked up on the fact early on that Christopher Nolan was doing the Batman universe from a very different perspective. Just about everything he did in those movies could really happen in the real world. So he took away any supernatural abilities that any of the villains had. So like Bane, for example, Bane is a very difficult character to convey on screen when you're trying to make it realistic. So he did the best he could. People didn't really like it. I get it, but it was a lot better than the 1997 version where he was just like the mindless drone. Because the whole thing with Bane is he's supposed to both be like mental adversary and physical adversary. He was very intelligent, but obviously because of the super soldier serum, whatever, he was very strong. But it's a difficult thing to do in a movie where you're trying to root things a little bit more in reality, where people can kind of watch this and go, oh, like that could actually kind of happen. Like that could really, be a real thing. It's just like a twist of fantasy or like a slight twist of sci-fi. But for the most part, they were much more rooted in reality. I think people were going to compare The Dark Knight Rises to The Dark Knight, and that's why it gets so much hate. I knew it wasn't going to live up when I saw it opening night. Yeah. But again, having Tom Hardy play Bane, I knew I was like, okay, they're gonna have to really sell this, because after that whole rant I just went on, it's like they're not going to be able to do comic book accurate Bane in Nolan's universe. But Tom Hardy as an actor, I think he brought it. I think he sold it. And overall I liked it, but it wasn't the stronger movie of the trilogy. But it was actually kind of funny for him, supposed to be like the big menacing brooding bad guy in the movie. I think he's actually slightly shorter than Christian Bale, so they had to like give him some like platform shoes or some like, kind of prop him up a little bit so he looked bigger. All right, well, I think that's enough rambling for one night. We talked about David Gilmour and Dark Side of the Moon. We talked about CKY and their singer being kind of a violent goon. And hey, that rhymed. So yeah, I think this is as good a place as any to end it. Oh, okay. The poll now, we've got 13 votes. We're at 15% say no, The Dark Side of the Moon does not sync up with The Wizard of Oz. And that's fine. I don't think it was ever really meant to, but I do think it's kind of fun to watch. I do think it's they're excited. You haven't even seen the movie. Get out of here. You are so fired. You can't say stuff like that about something you haven't seen. You're fired. But yeah, it is. I mean, I don't think it was ever actually written and recorded to sync up with the movie, but it is kind of fun to do. Apparently it's out there on YouTube now because somebody did the donkey work. Or if you have the DVD and a CD, put the movie on, or just, I don't know, stream it, whatever. But put the movie on, put the album on repeat. You'll be surprised. There are some very strange, coincidental things that can't really be explained, but they are interesting to watch. So anyways, thank you guys all for being here. My now disowned alternate universe dad, Roman, Lady Marine, who has made sure to do her due diligence to downvote and unsubscribe. To the rest of you who are watching, if you're still here, please make sure to like the stream. If you are new here, make sure to subscribe and ring that bell for notifications. Blair to Blair, always good to see you, buddy. Thanks for being here. J-Dog Freddy's first time in the chat. Hello to you. Thank you for being here. Cajun Corey, hello to you, sir. And yeah, I think we're gonna go ahead and end it here. So hope you guys all enjoy the rest of your night, evening, afternoon, wherever you're watching from. Enjoy the rest of your week. I am Joan, the creative blue collar guy. I will hopefully see you on Monday. Oh man, I got another busy weekend coming up. I will hopefully see you guys on Monday for Late to the Party news, or I don't know. We'll find some random dumb shit to talk about on Monday. We'll come up with something. Anyways, thanks again all for being here. Have a great night. Have a great week. I'll see you guys next time.